everyone, PolishLynx here, and let's continue. Narcissu side second, of course. At the water's edge, barefoot and raising the hem of her pajamas, Himeko-san seemed to be having fun. Could it be that in reality, testing the pineapple tree didn't matter at all? For me, I couldn't imagine the reason, but it might have been that she wanted an excuse, whatever it was, to go outside. And separate from my inner thoughts, Himeko-san was enjoying herself at the water's edge. It was just, even though I didn't understand plenty, there was one thing that I understood. That figure of Himeko-san right now, before my very eyes, without a doubt, in a few months, this person would disappear. That sunny smile, the gentle patting on my back, the warmth in her hand, will disappear. Only that was unmistakable. Hey, what are you doing depressing the mood over there? Well, if you don't come, I am really going to splash you. Alright, already. Having been prodded, I also took off my shoes and headed to the water's edge barefoot. Well, it feels good, doesn't it? It's cold and feels good. I washed my feet in the waves. The feel of the sun, the cold evening water, both felt good. How many years was it since I've been in the sea like this, I wonder? When will be the next time I can come to the sea like this, I wonder? No, we've not gotten ripped off. And then, from the convenience store back in her hand, Himeko-san took out something. Just when I wondered what it was. Ta-da! And here, alcohol makes its appearance. Come, you hold a glass too. But me and alcohol? Don't worry, don't worry. We just discovered the truth behind pineapples after all. And besides, this is an 8-year-old wine. With her overflowing aura, she half forcibly poured me a glass. The clear red wine seems overlaid with the beautiful color of the moonlight's blue. The two of us waded into the sea to our ankles and took up our glasses. By the way, Setsumi, you're how old now? 15. Well then, to an 8-year-old wine, and the 15-year-old. And also to my life. The moon floating in the cloudy summer sky illuminated the dark beach. The 10 things to do before dying. 3 weeks ago I was told to go along with the remaining 3. And now the pineapple tree and best friend were cleared, leaving what appeared to be one more. For me, I didn't know what that was, but the day for doing that last one might not be that far off. And after some time passed, Himeko-san was still happily walking along the water's edge. Suddenly her feet stopped and turned this way. Hey Setsumi, if I go into the sea like this, do you think I can die comfortably? Over there, the expression that had been on her face just before had disappeared. Hey, at that time, would you stop me? Not again. You really wanted to die. You would have dove into the sea long ago. Phew. Always the cool one, aren't you? As she spoke, she splashed her way back. And Yoko is shocked. There's no... okay. And then, while drying her wet feet with a towel, she sat down next to me. And now, we're revving up again, right?
またまた盛り上がってきたわね。
In contrast to her words, she spoke calmly and turned to face the one who had fallen silent. Me. It's okay. You've got them, right? Plenty of things you want to ask. Giving a small nod, I slowly opened my mouth. From long before, there had been many things I wanted to ask Himeko-san. When you heard you were going to die, did you cry? Well, a bit.
ちょっとはね。
Then, were you bitter asking why only me?
なんだ。
That's a hard question.
それは難しい質問ね。逆
Well,
にあなたに
let me
聞くけどさ。
ask you. When you say bitter, bitter at
誰に
whom?
対して。
Huh? I didn't know. That was my reaction to the unexpected question. Indeed, if God
も
exists,
し神様って
then I
のがい
might
るの
be
な
bitter.
ら恨んだかもね。
Even though you're a former Catholic, you don't believe in the existence of
信じて
God?
ないの。
No, I believe,
信じてる
even
わよ。
as a former Catholic.
元カトリックでもね。
Probably
おそらく神様は
God exists. But, you see, it looks like he's very busy,
神
busy,
様とやら。
that God. Or maybe
それとも
he just doesn't care perhaps.
ただ無関心なのかしらね。
She continued to speak bluntly as if talking to herself. That face, illuminated by the moonlight, felt somehow lonely and philosophical.
ね
Hey
え、セツミ。
Setsumi,
あな
do you
た、
know a
フ
dog
ラン
of
ダースの勇
Flanders?
気知ってる？
A dog
フ
of
ランダー
Flanders?
スの犬。
I don't know what is it. Yes, it's a pretty
結構
famous
有名
story,
な
so you
話だから知
probably
ってる
know
でしょ。
it, more or less. At the sudden words, I answered with the slightest of nods. When I was young, I think I watched an anime broadcast of it. I believe it was a story about a child who had lost his family, Nello, and his dog, Patrache.
ネロ
Nello,
と
Patrache,
パトラッシュと
and Alois.
アロア。あ
Who
な
do
た
you
は
want
誰
to
にな
be?
りたい？
Or who don't you want to be?
誰にはなりたくない？
The ones who ultimately died, Nello and Patrache. Then the two's best friend, Alois. I didn't want to die. But even saying that, I didn't want to be the one left behind, Alois. I don't want to be any of them.
そ
Well,
りゃあ無理な
that's
相
an
談ね。
impossible arrangement. Why?
どうして？人に
People have only least three choices.
この3択しかないのよ。
As Himeko-san answered, her face was different from usual. The expression that she occasionally showed, that very strict expression, was there. Okay, chapter 12, Nello and Alois. I don't know that story. I think it's like some Japanese story only. Maybe in some countries, but in Poland, you don't hear something like that. June, a white overcast sky spread out today. This time's assignment is different from usual. In front of the hospital, my head was full of anticipation about the person I haven't seen yet. In the middle of the long hallway, I saw the doctor and spoke to him. So, are you really fine with it? Yes.
ぜ
Please
ひ
let
とも
me.
お願いします。
Even if you say that, at my wishes, the doctor showed reluctance. For me, still being a university student isn't the burden too heavy. That was probably the unspoken meaning behind it. The patient is well, you know, right? Of
もちろんで
course,
す。
that was exactly why I
だか
asked
ら
for
こ
the
その担当志
assignment.
願ですし。
When the doctor still continued looking doubtful, I pressed harder. The source of this was my volunteering to be the helper of a new patient to the hospice. I made sure to bring a letter of recommendation from the church. As I spoke, I handed a single sealed envelope over. Here, the domain of extraordinary acts was not only decided by the hospital itself, the wishes of the church often also had influence. Alright, I will inform the director. Thank you very much. Giving a deep bow, I left the place. A helper's application for the 7th floor assignment. That in itself wasn't a particularly strange occurrence. Moreover, up until now, I had served 3 hospice patients already. Considering my age, that was a rare amount of helper experience. It could be said that I was a veteran. As to why it was rare, in normal hospitals, no matter how much a person volunteered, it would have been difficult for a university volunteer to be stationed at a hospice. No matter how short-handed the place called the hospice was afforded that consideration. But this is a Christian hospital. And moreover, even compared to other places, it was more strongly a religiously oriented place than medical services oriented. And I am a Catholic. Someone who before her earliest memories received the waters of baptism, who actively engaged in public welfare activities. These were probably all of the reasons. But this time assignment is different from usual. The patient was a child, and also not just a child, but one without guardians and bedridden. Essentially a child with no relatives, no parents. Of course, that didn't mean the child had no parents at birth, with cruel leaving a bedridden child and vanishing just like that. There were many of those kinds of parents. I didn't want to accept it, but that was also reality. And such a child with no place to go, no relatives. The first to take the child in would be a Catholic hospital like ours. Perhaps it could be said that it was the last resort. And that merciful stance, it was the aspect of Catholicism itself that was my reason for being faithful. That's why I was not a devoted follower. It didn't matter if it was Baptist or Protestant, I probably wouldn't have cared. For I had been baptized before I had memories. It was just a coincidence that I was born and raised in a house next to a church. But even if it were a coincidence, I didn't have the resolve to want to swear lifelong service. I was simply a follower of that merciful spirit. Different from the usual 7th floor, today it was to the 5th floor. Headed to Great the Nello I still hadn't seen. The word Nello was the term between us helpers and nurses. A resident of the 7th floor, child without relatives, bringing those together most likely. It had probably been a name taken from a dog of Flanders. It was a pretty disrespectful naming, but even now, I didn't know the truth behind it. When I came, it felt already long established. It's just that probably there was no malice behind that name. The reason was, whenever it was known that Anello was combing the number of doctors, nurses, and helpers who sought the assignment was great. That sort of situation was probably because this was a hospital following Christ's teachings, which aimed at a self-sacrificing attitude. And then, among the helpers assigned to Nello were called with both respect and just Alois. But in reality, Patricia would have been closer. However, we are unable to die with them. That was why they were called the closest best friend, Alois. And I was one of those who desired the role of Alois. Good morning. Good morning. Raising her body up in the bed, a girl looked this way. Above her knees, perhaps because it was just past noon, was an already eaten lunch tray. Her voluminous hair left an impression. I think it is a good idea to cut it here and see the dialogue in the next episode, because learning that story might be very interesting. And I have to check that book it was said before this game. That might be really interesting actually. So I will check it. You check it. And we'll see each other in the next episode. See ya. Bye.